Devil May Cry 5 was released in 2019 by Capcom, and it is without question the finest action game ever made. After years of waiting since Devil May Cry 4, Capcom delivered a return to form that surpassed everything that came before it. You play as three characters: Nero, the returning demon hunter with a mechanical arm; Dante, the legendary son of Sparta with 12 weapons and 4 fighting styles; and V, a mysterious newcomer who commands demon familiars. Each one plays completely differently, and each one is exceptional. The combat system is the heart of everything. You are rated on style after every encounter, from D all the way up to SSS, and the game rewards creativity, variety, and aggressive play. Chaining together long combos, switching weapons mid-air, using the environment and enemy interactions to keep a fight going without touching the ground is one of the most satisfying gameplay loops in any genre. The Bloody Palace mode adds a challenge arena that will push even veteran players to their absolute limit. Devil May Cry 5 sold nearly 10 million copies and won Best Action Game at the Game Awards 2019. The special edition on PS5 and Xbox Series adds Virgil as a fully playable character and runs at 4K 120 FPS. If you enjoy action games and have never played this, you are missing the benchmark that every other action game gets measured against.
Far Cry 3 was released in 2012 by Ubisoft Montreal, and it remains one of the most influential open-world shooters ever made. You play as Jason Brody, a privileged young American tourist whose vacation turns into a nightmare when his group is captured by pirates on a tropical island. What begins as a desperate survival story transforms into something far more complex and disturbing, a psychological journey about violence, power, and what happens to a person when they discover they are capable of killing. The island of Rook is one of the best designed open-world environments in gaming. Dense jungle, enemy outposts, wildlife that can turn on you at any moment, and a world that feels genuinely alive and unpredictable. Hunting animals to craft equipment, liberating outposts to unlock fast travel, and exploring the island's hidden corners gives you dozens of hours of content that never feels forced or padded. The villain, Vaas Montenegro, voiced by Michael Mando, is one of gaming's most iconic antagonists. His opening monologue about the definition of insanity is one of the most quoted lines in gaming history. Far Cry 3 set the template that every open-world shooter has followed since. The outpost system, the crafting loop, the skill tree. It was revolutionary in 2012, and it remains hugely enjoyable today. Dying Light was released in 2015 by Techland, and it is one of the most unfairly overlooked games of the last decade. Set in the fictional Middle Eastern city of Haran, quarantined after a zombie outbreak, you play as Kyle Crane, an undercover agent sent in to retrieve a stolen file, who quickly becomes entangled in the survival of the city's remaining inhabitants. The story is solid, but the gameplay is what makes Dying Light genuinely special. The parkour system is the game's greatest achievement. You move through Haran by running across rooftops, vaulting over obstacles, and swinging between buildings with a grappling hook. The city is designed as a vertical playground, and once you have upgraded your agility skills, the movement feels completely fluid and exhilarating. Combat is brutal and weighted. Weapons degrade, crafting matters, and every fight feels like it carries real consequence. The day and night cycle transforms the experience entirely. During the day, zombies are slow and manageable. At night, volatile infected come out, fast, aggressive, and terrifying. Choosing to go out at night for greater rewards is a genuine risk-reward decision that keeps the tension alive throughout the entire game. Dying Light 2 arrived in 2022, but the original remains the better, tighter experience. This is one you absolutely must play. Horizon Forbidden West was released in 2022 by Guerrilla Games as the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. You play as Aloy, a skilled hunter and outcast traveling west across a post-apocalyptic America overgrown with nature and populated by enormous mechanical creatures. The story expands dramatically on the mysteries established in the first game, taking Aloy into ancient ruins, underwater environments, and the western coast of America to uncover the truth about a dying world and the humans who built it. The world of Forbidden West is one of the most visually spectacular environments ever created in a video game. Jungles, deserts, snowy mountains, and flooded cities rendered with extraordinary detail. Every region looks like a painting come to life. The mechanical creature designs are inventive and varied,
and fighting them is always engaging. The combat system is layered. Bows, slings, elemental ammunition, traps, stealth, and melee all interact in ways that reward experimentation. Guerrilla Games expanded the climbing and traversal significantly from the first game, adding a grappling hook and glider that make exploring the enormous map genuinely joyful. The underwater sections add a completely new dimension to exploration. Forbidden West is bigger, more beautiful, and more ambitious than its predecessor in every way. It is one of the definitive PlayStation experiences of this generation.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was released in 2023 by Insomniac Games, and it is the best superhero game ever created. Building on the foundation of the first Spider-Man and Miles Morales, this sequel puts you in control of both Peter Parker and Miles Morales simultaneously, switching between them throughout the story. The narrative brings in one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains, Venom, and handles the story with a level of emotional maturity and genuine consequence that most superhero games never attempt. The web-swinging system is the finest in any open-world game. New York is bigger than ever, and the addition of web wings that let you glide between skyscrapers adds another dimension to traversal that never gets old. Switching between Peter and Miles gives you two completely different combat styles. Peter uses the symbiote suit and a variety of mechanical gadgets, while Miles relies on his bioelectric venom powers and camouflage. Both are excellent and distinct. The PS5 version uses the DualSense adaptive triggers and haptic feedback to create the most tactile web-swinging experience ever achieved. Every web attached to a building, every swing, every impact is felt through the controller. Insomniac Games has now made 4 exceptional Spider-Man experiences, and this is their best work. It arrived on PC in 2024, meaning more players than ever can access it.
Detroit Become Human was released in 2018 by Quantic Dream, and it is one of the most ambitious narrative games ever made. Set in Detroit in 2038, the city is populated by android servants who are indistinguishable from humans. The story follows 3 android protagonists: Kara, a domestic android who protects a young girl; Marcus, a caretaker who becomes the leader of an android revolution; and Connor, an investigative android hunting rogue androids for the police. Every decision you make permanently shapes the story, the relationships, and the fate of every character. The branching narrative system is the most complex ever built into a video game. There are hundreds of story paths leading to dramatically different outcomes for every character. Characters can live or die based on your choices, and the game continues without them, adapting the story around their absence. Playing through the game multiple times reveals entirely different story threats and outcomes that are invisible on a first playthrough. What makes Detroit stand out is how it uses the android narrative to explore real themes: civil rights, identity, what it means to be human, and the ethics of creating conscious beings as servants. These questions are handled with genuine care and intelligence. The performances, particularly Jesse Williams as Marcus, are exceptional. If you enjoy story-driven games and have never played Detroit, this is one of the finest narrative experiences gaming has to offer.
BioShock Infinite was released in 2013 by Irrational Games, and it remains one of the most narratively ambitious games ever created. You play as Booker DeWitt, a disgraced Pinkerton agent sent to the floating city of Columbia in 1912 to retrieve a young woman named Elizabeth. Columbia is a sky city built on American exceptionalism, religious fanaticism, and white nationalist ideology, a utopia that reveals its horror the deeper you venture into it. Elizabeth, who has the mysterious power to open tears in reality, accompanies you throughout the entire game and is one of the best AI companions ever designed. The floating city of Columbia is one of gaming's most extraordinary settings, a place of genuine beauty, fairground rides, brass bands, and blue skies that conceals shocking violence and ideological horror. The contrast between Columbia's surface perfection and its brutal reality is one of the most effective pieces of environmental storytelling in any game. The combat, while not the primary strength, is fast and chaotic, with vigors, magical abilities, adding spectacle to every encounter. The story's ending is one of the most discussed conclusions in gaming history, using the multiverse concept in ways that recontextualize everything that came before it. BioShock Infinite requires patience and a willingness to engage with its ideas, but for players who meet it on its own terms, it delivers an experience unlike almost anything else in the medium.
Baldur's Gate 3 was released in full in 2023. by Larian Studios, and it is the greatest RPG ever created. Based on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules, the game drops you into the Forgotten Realms after your character is infected with a mind flayer parasite that should transform you into a monster. The story that follows across 3 enormous acts spans over 100 hours and delivers a narrative so reactive and consequence-driven that no 2 playthroughs are identical. Every choice matters, every relationship has weight, the world remembers everything you do. The character creation is the most detailed in any RPG. 12 classes, 11 races, and a level of customization that lets you build almost any character imaginable. The companions are among the finest ever written. Shadowheart, Astarion, Gale, Lyazel, Karlach, Will, each with their own full story arc, relationship development, and completely different worldview. The game supports full 4-player co-op, allowing you to experience the entire campaign with friends. Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year, Best RPG, Best Narrative, Best Performer, and Best Multiplayer at the Game Awards 2023, the first game to sweep the major categories in the show's history. Larian Studios, with a fraction of the budget of major AAA studios, built something that made every other RPG developer reconsider what was possible. This is the new gold standard.
Days Gone was released in 2019 by Ben Studio, and it is one of the most unjustly dismissed games Sony has ever published. Critics gave it average scores at launch, citing performance issues and a slow opening. Players who committed to the full experience discovered something the reviews completely missed: a deeply emotional post-apocalyptic story, one of the most impressive open worlds on PS4, and some of the most technically spectacular gameplay of the generation. You play as Deacon St. John, a biker and former outlaw, surviving 2 years into a pandemic that has turned most of humanity into fast-moving infected called Freakers. The Freaker hordes are the game's defining achievement. Hundreds of infected moving together as a single mass organism, reacting to sound, light, and the environment in real time. Navigating around or fighting through a massive horde is some of the most genuinely tense gameplay in any open-world game. Deacon's motorcycle adds a survival dimension that makes every journey across Oregon meaningful. Fuel management, repairs, and upgrades matter throughout the entire game. What critics missed was the story. Deacon St. John is a compelling, emotionally layered protagonist, and his journey to find his wife Sarah, believed dead, is handled with real care and genuine emotion. Days Gone sold over 8 million copies despite its reviews and built one of the most passionate fan bases in gaming. Play it. The critics were wrong.
Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 was released in 2025 by Warhorse Studios as the sequel to the cult classic original. You return as Henry, the blacksmith's son from Skalitz, now older and more experienced, continuing his story across the beautiful landscapes of 15th century Bohemia. Like its predecessor, this is a historical RPG with no magic, no dragons, and no fantasy elements. Just a meticulously researched recreation of medieval Central Europe populated by real historical figures and grounded in the actual conflicts of the era. The game's commitment to realism is extraordinary. Combat is physics-based and demanding. You cannot button mash your way through fights. Lockpicking, pickpocketing, alchemy, and archery all use unique skill-based mechanics that require genuine practice to master. Henry needs to eat, sleep, and manage his hygiene. Reputation with different factions changes how NPCs interact with you. Every system feeds into a world that feels genuinely alive and reactive. The sequel expands dramatically on the original scope. Larger maps, more complex quests, deeper relationships, and significantly improved technical performance. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 sold over 5 million copies in its first weeks and proved there is a massive audience for realistic historical RPGs. If you want an RPG that takes its world seriously and demands you take it seriously too, this is the best one available.
That is all 10 games. From the stylish chaos of Devil May Cry 5 to the historical depth of Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. Single-player gaming has never been more diverse, more ambitious, or more rewarding than it is right now. Drop a comment below telling me your personal best single-player game of all time. If this was useful, hit the like button and subscribe. New gaming videos every week on GameStrike.